Would you, okay, would you do the roll call, please?
I will. Rachel Anger is here. Kathy Calhoun,
Here.
John Kalila,
Here.
Kenny Curley,
Here.
Pam Delabar,
Here.
Kathy Dunham,
Here.
George Eichenhauser,
Here.
Mark Hannon,
Here.
Yukiko Hayata,
Here.
Carol Krasnowski,
Here.
Rich Maston,
Here.
Steve McCullough,
Here.
Melanie Morgan,
Here.
Pam Moser,
Here.
Sharon Roy,
Here.
Howard Webster,
Here.
Annette Wilson,
Here.
Daryl Newkirk.
Here.
And our central office team, Eileen Tartaglia here, Shelley Perkins,
Here.
James Simbro.
Here.
The ID team would be Eva Chen.
Here.
Thank you, Eva. Gavin Cow, who I believe is not on the meeting, and Matt Wong. Also not on the meeting at this time. Thank you. Back to you, Mr. President.
Okay, so everyone got the pre-noticed agenda. Is there any objection or any changes to our agenda?
No.
Are you seeing the messages from Matt?
Oh, let me see if I can get up. I see them. I'll come over to panelist.
Okay,
Okay.
well, thank you, Mark, for reminding us of that. So we're.
Thank you. It's Matt Wong here. Thank you.
Thank you, Matt.
I will include you in the attendee roster. Thank you, Matt.
So we'll get back to the agenda. And Sharon Roy, your hand's up. You're muted, Sharon.
Sorry, I forgot to unmute.
That's okay.
We possibly move committee appointments for the time being to executive session. Can I make that motion?
We've never done them in executive session before.
Well, okay.
Kathy Calhoun, you're recognized.
Yes, was a new version of the committee appointments issued? If so, I can't find it.
It's in the compiled report document.
You've got
Okay.
an updated compiled report.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Pam Delabar, you're recognized.
Thank you. I was going to say in the past, we have at times considered committee appointments in executive session as not to embarrass the person being talked about. So it's, it's up to you whether you feel kind or not today.
Well, I try to be kind. I realize at times I say things with a tone that is not taken well. And having stated that, I would like to extend a personal apology to Pam Mosier when I cut her off in not such a nice tone during the Friday meeting. And Pam, I hope you'll accept my apology, and I promise to work on being more professional in the future.
Thank you, Daryl. I really appreciate that.
You're very welcome. And we've been friends for a long time. I don't want to destroy our friendship. Rich Maston, you're recognized.
Daryl, thank you. Might we consider asking the board what committee assignments they would like to pull out from the list, and then consider moving them into executive session so we can go through the appointments that are all acceptable? Would that be an option to consider?
I think we've done that in the past. Shelley, do you have input that you want to add to that? Oh, can we listen? Okay, all right, because Sharon's wanting to move to closed session. Shelley?
There's no reason why you can't have anything in closed session that the board doesn't want to have. I mean, this is the time to set the agenda, and if the board wants to move things to closed session and you agree, or there's a vote to do so, you can.
Okay,
Steve will second.
all right. So the chair's motion is to move the complete committee appointments into closed session. And Steve is seconded. Is there discussion on that, George Eichenhauser?
I have a question for Sharon, and I know it's hard to discuss in open session what you want to discuss in closed session. Is there a way to vote on the bulk of the appointments and only move some of them to closed session? Or would announcing which one we want to move into closed session spill all the beans and defeat the purpose of moving it to closed session?
Sharon?
It's up to you. I mean, I would prefer to move it all to closed session for now.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Sharon, you can take your hand down. Any other debate? Okay, I'll call the question. All those in favor of moving the committee appointments to closed session, raise your hand. Okay, so the yes votes are Melanie Morgan, Kathy Calhoun, John Kalila, Carol Krasnowski, Steve McCullough, Pam Mosier, George Eichenhauser, Pam Delabar, Rich Maston, Mark Cannon, Sharon Roy, Annette Wilson, Kenny Curley. If you'll take your hands down, please. If you're against the motion, please raise your hand. Ayakta-san, Kathy Dunham. Howard, I didn't see you vote.
I don't have a hand on this, on this program. I have no hand to put up.
You have a thumbs up or anything that you can?
No,
You got no reactions or no
No.
raised?
I do on the Zoom, but not on this program.
Okay,
What's his vote?
I voted
Yeah.
yes. I voted
Okay.
yes.
okay, then I will call you for a verbal vote, Howard.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay, so Madam Secretary, if you'll announce the results of the motion.
Would you call abstentions?
Oh, any abstentions?
I'm abstaining. I'm abstaining. I don't know the nature of why we're doing this, so I can't vote yes or no.
My only concern is lack of transparency for the people who are here viewing this.
Are we ready for the results?
Yes.
That's 14 yes votes, 2 no votes, 1 abstention.
Okay, so the motion is agreed to. Okay, any other changes to the agenda? Any objections to our amended orders of the day? No, without objection, now we have our orders of the day. The next item is the appointment of CFA legal counsel and parliamentarian, and I am appointing Shelley Perkins as our attorney.
I move we ratify.
Thank you.
Delabar seconds.
Thank you. Okay, is there an objection to the appointment of Shelley as our attorney?
Should I be present for this? I mean, just saying that I am here.
I understand. I don't think we've ever, well, usually the attorney is not even in the meeting until you get appointed, so.
But usually it's done in open session, so it's not a
Yes,
secret.
yes. Yeah. Is there any objection to appointing Shelley for the next year as our attorney? Okay, seeing no hands up by unanimous consent. Shelley, you're our legal counsel and parliamentarian. Okay, and the next order of business is yours, and that is to read the oath of office. And just before Shelley does that, everybody that's on the meeting has signed the confidentiality agreement. And Rachel put a note at the bottom of it. There's no expiration date on that. So once you sign that, it's in effect. So what we're going to do is Shelley's going to read oath of office. And then we'll go through the roll, and I'll ask you to verbally reaffirm your consent to the oath of office. Okay, Shelley, you can proceed.
The Cat Fanciers Association Incorporated Board of Directors Code of Ethics. Preamble. The Cat Fanciers Association Incorporated is a New York not-for-profit association formed to register pedigree cats, sanction CFA clubs, shows, and events, protect the hobby of breeding and showing, and enhance the well-being of all cats. CFA's principal membership consists of CFA cat clubs. The business of the association is managed under the direction of the CFA Board of Directors. This code of ethics serves as a code of conduct for association volunteers and staff in their capacity as board members. Members of the board affirm their endorsement of the code and acknowledge their commitment to uphold its principles and obligations by accepting and retaining membership on the board. Mission. The CFA's mission is to preserve and promote the pedigreed breeds of cats and to enhance the well-being of all cats. Board of Directors Code of Ethics. Members of the board shall at all times abide by and conform to the following code of conduct in their capacity as board members. 1, abide in all respects by the rules and regulations of the association, including but not limited to CFA's articles of incorporation, constitution, bylaws, and show rules. Conduct the business affairs of CFA in good faith and with honesty, integrity, due diligence, and reasonable competence. Lead by example in serving the needs of CFA and its members, and also representing the interests and ideals of the cat fancy at large. Uphold the strict confidentiality of all closed meetings and other confidential communications, and not disclose any confidential information related to CFA affairs. Confidential information does not include information that is publicly available, so long as information was not made public by violation of this or any other agreement or confidentiality obligation. Board members shall not disclose to any others the following information or property of CFA: trade secrets, patents, or other proprietary information, customer or referral source lists, contractual agreements, customer and employee personal information, judging program information and judge personal information, protest citation and other disciplinary information, animal welfare information, advertising or marketing strategies, product development practices, and computer programming and source code. Back to number 5, perform assigned duties in a professional and timely manner pursuant to the board's direction and oversight. Exercise proper authority and good judgment in dealing with CFA staff, judges, breeders, exhibitors, and other board members and the general public, and respond to their needs in a responsive, respectful, and professional manner. Handle conflicts of interest appropriately by identifying them to the board and removing themselves from all discussion and voting on that matter. Act at all times in the best interest of CFA. Avoid placing and the appearance of placing one's own self-interest or any third-party interest above that of CFA. Not abuse board membership by improperly using board membership for personal or third-party gain or financial enrichment. Not represent that their authority as a board member extends any further than that which it actually extends. Not engage in any outside business, professional, or other activities that would directly or indirectly materially adversely affect CFA. Not engage in or facilitate any discriminatory or harassing behavior towards CFA staff, members, officers, exhibitors, breeders, or others in the context of activities relating to CFA. Not solicit or accept gifts, gratuities, or any other item of value from any person or entity as a direct or indirect inducement to provide special treatment to such donor with respect to matters pertaining to CFA without fully disclosing such items to the board of directors. Provide proper care for their cats and maintain them in an exemplary manner beyond the CFA's minimum cattery standards.
Thank you so much, Shelley. So I'm going to ask Rachel to go through the membership list. And you are verbally reaffirming that you will consent to your oath of office that was just read to you. And I will ask each of you when Rachel calls your name to say, I will.
So first is Rachel Anger, and I will reaffirm. Next is Kathy Calhoun
I will.
and John Kalila,
I will.
Kenny Curley.
I will reaffirm.
Thank you. Pam Delabar,
I will reaffirm.
Kathy Dunham,
I will reaffirm.
George Eigenhauser,
I will reaffirm.
Mark Hannon,
I will reaffirm.
Yukiko Hayata. We'll come back to Hayata-san. Carol.
Sorry, I will. Sorry.
Thank you. Thank you. Carol Krasnowski,
I will reaffirm.
Rich Maston,
I will reaffirm.
Steve McCullough,
I will reaffirm.
Melanie Morgan,
I will reaffirm.
Pam Moser,
I will reaffirm.
Daryl Newkirk,
I will reaffirm.
Sharon Roy,
I will reaffirm.
Howard Webster,
I will reaffirm.
Annette Wilson.
I will affirm.
Okay. Yeah, you're not doing it again, are you, Annette?
I'm sorry?
Nothing. So thank you, everyone, for reaffirming your commitment to the Board of Directors oath. So we'll move on. George Eichenhauser, you're recognized for the delegate fee reduction rebate issue.
Okay. As those of you who were already on the board recall, when we first came out with the virtual annual, there was some pushback about the delegate fee, but it's constitutional, so we were pretty much stuck with it. We talked about reducing it or making some kind of a rebate after the fact. We are now after the fact, so now is the time to talk about it. I'm not married to any particular solution, but I do think we should give the delegates something back. So I put this on the agenda just to make sure that we had a placeholder and to make sure that there was something pre-noticed for this discussion. The clubs that showed up and participated in the annual did a tremendous job. I thought for our first virtual annual, everything went reasonably smoothly. The clubs who did send delegates and got us our quorum and enabled us to conduct business did CFA a service by doing so. And I do think that we should rebate at least some. We don't necessarily know to the penny how much the virtual annual cost us, but by now we have a reasonable, at least a ballpark figure. It's not going to be any surprises. We're not going to be suddenly getting $100,000 in expenses that we didn't know about. We should know by today, order of magnitude, how much the annual cost us, and we can make a reasonable estimate. There were roughly 300 delegates that logged in at $40 a piece. Even if we refunded everything, the maximum we're talking about refunding is $12,000. So that's the number we're working with. I'd like to hear other people's ideas on how much we should kick back. All, none, or part.
So George, can you state the motion and get a second, and then we can open up
Sure.
debate, and then that way if people have a different dollar amount.
Yeah, that
then we-
CFA refund all of the delegate registration fee, which is $40 for the 2021 annual meeting for any clubs who are actually present and voting at any time during the annual meeting. And the refund is to be made to the club, delegate, or other entity who actually paid the delegation registration fee to CFA.
Any seconds?
Okay, we got Rachel before you, Kenny. So Kathy Calhoun, you are recognized.
I do have a question for Aline, just so that I would have a better idea around the cost. Can you advise how much of the cost has already been posted to QuickBooks?
very little other than the cancellation fee. We really haven't had much other expense. Well, there's about close to 5,000. I took that back.
So did we have to buy any incremental equipment, cameras, things like that may have mounted up
Those have already hit the books.
in May? Are they're posted in May? Or were they posted
Yes,
last
they
year?
should be. They should be. I wasn't prepared for this. There's going to be some further expenses.
Elaine, I can't hear you, hon.
You can't hear me?
Thank
There's going to
you.
be some further expenses, some travel expenses that I don't have yet. I don't know what they'll be. I'm guessing. Can you hear me now? Can anybody hear me?
Not much better.
You're kind of far from the microphone.
Is that better?
I hear you,
Getting there.
Ellen.
Okay. We don't have all the expenses yet. There's going to be some further travel expenses that I don't know what they'll be yet, but I'm guessing that the total will be in the area of 7,000 total for travel, equipment, and related expenses.
That answer your question, Kathy?
Yes.
Pam Delamar, you're recognized.
The reason that we pay a delegate fee is to help defray the costs to the organization of putting on this annual meeting. Now, I missed the parties, and as many of you know, we went ahead and were able to have a party of all the Finnish clubs, but we still had a $20,000 cancellation. We had additional expenses up to $32,000, offset by $12,160 of delegate fee. I would love to say, oh, let's just give it all back, but that is not part of our charter as delegates. We are here to support the organization, not vice versa. Now, on the other hand, do I think that giving a portion back of a company that made over $500,000 last year will not hurt us? But I do want to see some responsibility on the part of the club, member clubs, in order to put on and contribute and be part of the annual business meeting of this organization.
Thank you, Pam. Melanie Morgan, you're recognized.
Thank you, Daryl. God forbid that we be fiscally irresponsible. That's the last thing on earth I want to do. However, I think, as many of you know or may remember, I felt very strongly about the fact that we shouldn't be charging our delegates the full fee this year. They, like everyone else in the world, have felt the pinch of the COVID-19 pandemic. And because we have been fiscally responsible, CFA is in, thankfully, thank you, Rich, and all of the people who have worked so hard to manage that budget, is in a decent position right now. We should not be riding on the backs of our clubs at the moment. I'm incredibly grateful to every club who, despite what they were going through with their financial tightening of the belt, came forward and became a delegate. I strongly feel that we should refund a large portion. I think originally we had talked about charging $10 as a delegate fee, which seemed reasonable, although I would support George, the motion as it stands with the full amount. But at the very least, I would like to see us refund $30.
Thank you, Melanie. George, you're recognized.
And just to be clear, the reason I recommended all is because you have to start somewhere. If people think that all is too much, we can go to half, we can go to 3/4. You know, the point is, this annual cost us significantly less than an annual would normally cost. It's only fair to pass some of that savings on to the clubs. So if this fails, if somebody wants to go for half or something later, I'm fine with all that. I just wanted to make sure we did something.
Thank you, George. We're sort of trying to get an idea
Daryl?
of where an amendment might be. Yes, Melanie?
Daryl? Two things. First of all, I misspoke. Rich for all of his investment things, Kathy Calhoun for managing our budget. And second of all, if George is amenable to it, I would then like to amend the motion to be a $30 refund to the clubs.
Okay, I need a second on the amendment.
George will second.
Okay, so the amendment is what we're going to discuss now, not the original main motion. We're going to talk about refunding $30 instead of 40. Annette, you're recognized.
Thank you. I don't want to complicate things too much, but it would be, sometimes it's the clubs that pay the fee and sometimes it's the delegate that pays it personally. And while there may not be a difference in that, and I think that's accounted for in this, it would be nice to have an option for the delegate to then be able to donate that refund to, for example, the CFA breed assistance program, or pick 2 or 3. I know that can be complicated accounting wise, but I think that would be a nice option and still keep some of the money to some of our valuable programs. Thank you.
Aline wants to comment on that, Annette.
I just want to point, can everybody hear me? I'm not sure why this microphone isn't working as well tonight, but I just wanted to point out that administratively, now getting into a choice of do they want their donation or do they want the fee back? Do they want to donate it? It has greatly increased the amount of staff time to handle the 300 payments. So I just would like you to keep that in mind, because now we have to contact each club, ask them, what do they want to do with the delegate fee? Track that down. So it really does greatly increase the amount of time to do something like that.
Okay, Rachel Inger, you're recognized.
Thank you. I would like to make a further amendment to the motion if I can do that now, or do you want to dispense with this first?
You can make a secondary amendment.
My secondary amendment, and I admit that I'm not the author of this, is to refund the amount that Annette just moved to the clubs that participated in the quorum and voted only.
I think that's what it says already. It says present at voting.
Good, then we'll just vote on Annette's amendment. Great, perfect.
I
We're all
think it
brilliant.
was Melanie's motion.
Oh, was it Melanie? Sorry, so sorry.
I think it was Melanie. Kenny Curley, you're recognized.
Yeah, I support Melanie's amendment to the motion. And I like where Annette is coming from, but once they get the money back, they can make their decision. We can always recommend.
Yep. George Eigenhauser, you're recognized.
And I'm going to agree with Kenny and Aline. It'd be nice if they made some of these refunds as donations to other entities, but we don't want to make this overly complicated. We don't want to have a lot of interaction with central office. It's easy to just send them the money, let them decide what they want to do with it.
Kathy Calhoun, you're recognized.
I did have a question for Aline. Would it take some of the complexity down if we position the donation? Because I really like that idea of the donation. If we positioned it that the clubs would contact central office by X amount of date if they would like to donate to, and we just name 1 or 2 sources or beneficiaries, would that help as opposed to central office having to reach out? Or is it still very difficult?
I'll let Aline answer that.
No, it's not difficult, except it's getting the word out to the clubs. Inevitably, somebody will find out after the fact. They'll be upset that they didn't get in touch with it. We didn't get in touch with them. So even though we're putting the onus or the burden on the clubs to contact us, that rarely works. And the burden and the responsibility comes back to the office. I'd rather, and this is just a suggestion, is that we refund clubs $20 and the board determines what to do with the other $20. I mean, that could be a nice clean cut option.
Shelley, you're recognized.
Well, when I was reading the motion, I felt like the first sentence conflicts with the second sentence. The second sentence says the refund is to be made to the club delegate or other entity that actually paid the delegate registration fee. And it made me feel like everyone was going to get one. And so it might be smart to add the word "and" in between the two, so that it's clear that they had to be present and voting, and that the refund would go to the club that paid. Because I just felt like it looks like everybody gets it back, which is, I think, a comment somebody raised.
Okay, somebody want to make a secondary amendment to our amended motion we're discussing?
I'll make the motion to accept Shelley's amendment.
Okay, thank you. A second, please.
Melanie seconds.
Thank you, Melanie. Any discussion on the secondary amendment in inserting the word "and" before the refund?
I just wanted to make a clarification. When the motion says the refund goes back to the club, it's not necessarily the club entity that makes the payment. It could be an individual from the club. So I'm not sure if that makes
It's
a
club
difference.
delegate or other entity who actually paid it. So I think that's addressed.
Yeah.
Kelly, do you want to have another comment? Pam Delabar?
Yes, I was trying to comment even before Shelley's amendment. You're coming up on a federal holiday fairly shortly. I think we need to keep this as clean as possible for central office to be able to get this money back to whoever or whomever paid the delegate fee. Can we leave the donations and put it out by CFA newsletter or my minutes of this meeting that we want to clubs to consider donation to whatever we decide that we would like to get donations to, be it BAP or the CFA Foundation Museum or whatever that we may need. We may want to have donated. And Shelley, would you restate where your "and" is on your amendment? Because I had problems following that.
It's between the first and second sentence. It turns it all into one big sentence.
So we have a run-on sentence.
Well, it's, present anytime during the annual meeting, and the refund is to be made to the club in order to combine the two thoughts. So there's no ambiguity.
Carol Krasnowski, you're recognized.
Yes, I agree with Pam Delabar. We need to keep this very simple. And we can certainly address the encouragement to donate the funds in either a news release or whatever other notification is sent to the clubs about the refund.
Okay. All right, I see no hands up. Carol, more comment? No, okay. So we're gonna vote on the secondary amendment, and that's to insert "and" make it one big long sentence, okay? All right, anybody object to the secondary amendment? Hearing no objections, the secondary amendment is ratified. Now we'll go back to our original amendment, which is to refund $30. Okay, is there? Melanie, Pam Mosier?
I just have a concern of how much time this is going to take central office. Aline, is this going to be really time consuming and, for your office staff?
Yes.
Yeah.
The refund has to go back the way it was paid. So it's a matter of looking up each transaction, processing a refund, whether it was via PayPal or credit card, or perhaps check for those that did. So it's a pretty detailed and lengthy process. I estimate that it will take it'll take close to a full week of solid time for these to be processed by someone in the central office. And I'm basing that on when we've done refunds before for as far last year for delegate fees, the few we had and a couple of dinners. So this is a much larger amount.
Okay, Pam, any other comments?
No, I mean, I just think that this could, it's going to be kind of a mess for central office, and that's my concern.
Okay, thank you for that. John Colella?
I'd like to recommend we just cut checks for all refunds to make life easy on the central office.
I think
So they don't have to look up with a PayPal or anything like that.
Aline?
That's no easier. I believe the rules of commerce are that you have to give money back the same way it was paid. That's usually how it works. Giving, writing all the checks, really, it would be a little bit easier, but it's not the proper way to do things.
Yeah, even if you do a return that was on a credit card, they're going to refund your credit card.
Right.
Rich, you're recognized.
Yeah, under Melanie's amended change, I think we have to eliminate the word all. That has to be worded. So it's that CFA refund $30 of the delegate registration fee, because currently it says all of the delegate registration fee.
So can you write that down, Rich, and repeat it so that we can amend it?
Thinking out loud, it would be that CFA refund $30 of the delegate registration fee or the 2021 CFA annual. Continue. So that's where the change would be.
Okay, so this is a secondary amendment, so I need a second.
That's my motion.
I'll second.
Yeah, I got Rachel already, so any discussion on the rewording that Rich has done? Shelley, you're recognized.
Well, my hand was up before he made that amendment, so I can wait.
Okay, all right. Okay. Rich, your hand's still up?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Okay, I see no other hands up, so any objection to Rich's a secondary amendment, changing the wording to make it more clear? Okay, hearing no objection by unanimous consent. Thank you, Rich, for correcting the wording. So now we will go back to the original amendment. Shelley, you're recognized.
So Aline made a comment that this was something to do with the rules of commerce, but I don't think that this is a refund of a payment because so I'm not sure the rules of commerce apply. And so if you would change the word away from refund to return, and then to make it easy, you could just send it to the club and let them send it to the person who paid it. So if a check was sent, like if the CFA determined to return to each club as a gift, then it's not a refund that has to go back the way it went. And then you could just issue it to the club and maybe that would make it easier.
I think, Shelley, the only problem with that is CAP people all love each other and get along great. And there probably wouldn't be any fights if somebody paid that out of their pocket and we send it back to the club, and then we may open up a whole can of worms. George, you're recognized.
If Shelley has trouble with the word refund, I'd be amenable to changing it to return wherever the word refund appears. Would that be better, Shelley?
I was only trying to get around the idea that this is a refund of the exact payment so that it had to go back the same way to allow the front office to just send a check.
So you don't mind leaving it if it's going back to the same person?
No.
Okay. All right. Let's see here. Carol Krasnowski, you're recognized.
Yes, I really believe a check to the clubs is not the answer. As Daryl stated, the person who actually paid the fee may never get the refund back. Yeah. So I think it does have to go back exactly the way it came in.
Okay, thank you. Pam Delabar, you're recognized.
Please do not send checks to clubs or entities outside the United States. We don't do checks here in Europe. We do bank transfers or PayPal or things like that. When you get into checks, you might as well just burn them up, because it's costly to even try to work with that with your bank. If you send a check, please go back to the original way the money was sent in.
Thank you, Pam. John Colella, you're recognized.
The word refund, I'm so used to refund is for the full amount. Shouldn't we change it like rebate?
If that's a motion, I'll second it. I don't care.
We're into semantics. They're getting the money back. I don't, it's up to you.
Shelley has her hand up.
Go ahead.
You can refund a portion, so I don't think you need to change it to rebate.
Is our microphone coming through a little clearer now?
Can everybody hear me better now? This is Aline.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, so we're not doing another secondary amendment. So are you guys debated out on the amendment? Pam Mosier, you're recognized.
Just one last question. Aline, what about the loss on the credit card fees? Does that come into play here?
Well, there is a transaction fee for every refund that we would do.
Yeah. I mean, has there been clubs complaining that they want their money back? I mean, I don't know. I know that some people in my region had stated to me when they first put in their delegate fee, they said they weren't even planning on coming to the delegate meeting, but they were just giving the fee to support CFA. So that might be something, another way to look at it.
Can I say something?
You can.
Personally, my clubs don't want the money back. I think it should go to CFA. Now, $40 is not that much money. And personally, my clubs don't want it back.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else have anything to add on the amendment? Okay, Rich, you're recognized.
I'm not sure I have anything to add on the amendment. However, Pam and Howard are onto something here. I believe this all started because there was a number of people who did have concerns that they were having to pay $40 for an event that they weren't going to attend in person. Now, I'm sure they saved an enormous amount of money for not having to attend an in-person meeting, and the board decided that we would look at this after the annual, because it is in our now called bylaws, the requirement to pay $40 to attend an annual. So I'm not sure what is right or wrong, but they both do bring up some good points on that. The other comment I did want to make was related to Pam's question on the credit card charges. There is a charge fee depending on what is used, anywhere from 2.5% to 3.5% of that transaction on all the credit cards that were used to pay the fee. Now, it's not a lot of money, but there is some money that's involved.
Okay, we've had a couple of chats and Shelley recommended we might put at the very end if requested. That way it would, the club, if they didn't want to get the money back, they would have to do the request. Would that be okay, Aline?
Perfect.
Oh, Aline thinks that's perfect.
Yep.
So I can't make the motion if somebody would like.
Can we dispose of the motion that's on the floor before we start adding more motions for more amendments?
Well, George, we're in an amended situation right now.
But I mean, we're trying to vote on whether it should be 40 or 30. Can we at least resolve that issue before we add more issues?
Shelley?
That's correct. That's the posture where you're at. You need to solve the 40 versus 30, which I think is where you're at.
Okay, so I'll call the motion on the $30. Then Pam, we can amend it. Once we approve it, then we can amend it and add that if requested at the end. So I'm calling the question.
Daryl.
If what's that?
I'm sorry, Daryl. This is Pam Delabar. I've had my hand up. I'm going to say that if requested within 30 days is really the operative phrase for me on this whole thing. If that's not in there, I'm voting against this until that portion is in there.
Melanie?
Never mind, I was voting, but I'm fine with adding that in for question, if we can figure out a way to logistically do that within Robert's rules.
Well, we can. I mean, it's a secondary amendment. You can have 3 amendments on at the same time. We just vote them down one at a time. And so all we're doing, we've got it, the amendment that includes your $30. And we've already amended it to include and between meeting and the refund. Now, this is just a different secondary amendment to add if requested within 30 days. And then we can vote on and vote on the amendment and then vote on the amended motion and we're done. George?
So I would like to move that we add if requested within 30 days.
Again, this is, the more we keep adding amendments before we resolve another one, the more we're going to confuse the situation. Can we please just decide 40 or 30, then we can decide the if requested as a separate motion. That's the cleaner way to do it.
Okay, well, it's the other way is allowed in Robert's rules. But if you want to close the debate and we'll vote on what we've got right now, we can do that, and then we can come back and open it up and reconsider it. We'll have to have a motion to reconsider and then add that in. So if you're in favor of the motion, please raise your hand. Okay, the yes votes are Melanie Morgan, Mark Hannon, Kathy Calhoun, John Kalila, George Eigenhauser, Sharon Roy, Yukiko Hayata, Annette Wilson, Carol Kaznowski, Kathy Dunham, Kenny Curley, Rachel Anger, Rich Maston, Pam Delabar, Steve McCullough, Howard Webster.
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
Is Pam Moser on there?
Pam Mosier, are you there?
She may be voting. now.
I am. I'm waiting for the next one.
Okay, thank you, thank you. So everybody take your hand down. Those opposed, raise your hand.
There we go.
Pam Mosier. Any abstentions? No, okay.
We had 16 yes votes, 1 no vote, 0 abstentions.
Okay, so the motion is agreed to.
So
Hang on, Eileen.
I'm sorry, can I have some clarification? I was making notes. I'm not sure exactly what we're supposed to be doing at this point. Is it if requested within 30 days or not?
We're not there yet.
We're not
Oh, we're
there
not
yet.
there yet. Okay. I'm
George
sorry.
Eigenhauser, you're recognized.
Okay, now that we have dealt with that amendment, we still have never voted on the main motion. So we're not reconsidering the main motion. We're still discussing the main motion. And if people want to add if requested to the end of this, I will say if requested within 30 days, and that'll be my motion.
Richard, second.
Okay, thank you. Any discussion, Pam Delabar?
I'm sorry, I was just trying to second.
Okay, thank you. Are you ready for the question? Is there any, Kathy Calhoun, you're recognized?
Would someone just restate the amendment?
Yeah, to add to the very end of the motion as it exists, if requested within 30 days.
So they would receive a refund if requested.
If requested within 30 days.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so this is, we have an amended motion that we have an amendment to.
We do have, can we let Aline speak to this before we do this? She's posted something on the chat.
Yes, Annette had mentioned about an optional credit for next year's delegate fee. If that wouldn't further complicate it, that's what I was
Yes,
responding
okay.
to.
That's not in this amendment. So I think we've amended it to death. So is there any objection to this new amendment if requested within 30 days? Okay, I see no hands up. Without objection by unanimous consent, the motion is amended. Now we have to approve the amended main motion. Any discussion on the amended motion? Okay, Shelley?
I would just like the motion completely restated because there's been enough amendments and I wasn't sure what Rich's amendment was that passed as well to clarify things.
I
So
will ask the secretary to restate it.
That CFA refund $30 of the delegate registration fee for the 2021 CFA annual meeting for any clubs who were actually present and voting at any time during the annual meeting. And the refund is to be made to the club, delegate, or other entity who actually paid the delegate registration fee to CFA if requested within 30 days.
Okay, Shelley? Okay. All right, I see no hands up, so I'll call the question. Is there any objection to ratifying the amended motion? Pam Mosier objects. Okay, so I'll call for the yes votes. So the yes votes are Kenny Curley, Carol Krasnowski, George Eigenhauser, Pam Delabar, Melanie Morgan, Annette Wilson, Sharon Roy, John Kalila, Kathy Calhoun, Mark Hannon, Ayata San, Kathy Dunham, Steve McCullough, Kenny Curley. Howard, how are you voting?
Yes.
Yes, okay. You'll take your hands down. And if you're against the amended motion, please raise your hand. Pam Mosier. Did you get a vote from Kathy Calhoun?
I did.
Oh, you did. Okay.
I have not gotten a vote from Rich.
Rich?
I was a yes.
Okay.
Okay, Madam Secretary, you can announce the result.
That was 16 yes votes, 1 no vote, 0 abstentions.
Okay, so the motion is agreed to. Ellie?
I just have a question. When does the 30-day time clock start ticking?
Right this second.
Don't they need to be notified first, George?
We're going out live with this.
Yeah, we have 18 people other than people are panelists. So that's not a very good representation. I think whenever Ellen sends out.
Can we post it on CFA News today?
That's what I was getting ready to say.
Yes.
We'll put it on. So
Okay.
we'll put up the post today and we'll make it 30 days from today. Pam Delbar, you're recognized.
I was also putting it in my minutes, which should be done hopefully very quickly after this meeting.
Okay, thank you, Pam. George, you have your hand up?
Yeah, and when we put out the notice, does Aline have a preference as to how they notify CO? Who should they ask?
I'll include that in the post.
Okay.
It would go to, the request would go to Amber. Good, right.
Okay, are we done with this, George? Anything else?
I think so.
Okay, good deal. Thank you. So we'll move on to new business, old business, and Rachel Engel, you're recognized for new business A.
Thank you. The first one is a resignation from the CFA judging program. We received a resignation request from Oscar Silva Sanchez to be effective April 30th, 2021. So I would like to move that we accept with regret the resignation of Oscar Silva Sanchez from the CFA judging program as of April 30th, 2021.
George seconds.
Okay. Any objection to the acceptance of Oscar's resignation from the CFA judging program? Okay, hearing no objection by unanimous consent, this motion is agreed to. And let's see, Kenny Curley, you're up next.
Yes, Does, we have the motion?
First, we have the motion.
I do. Would you like me to read it, Kenny? Into
If
the
you
record?
would, if you would, please, Rachel.
Sure. For the 2021-2022 show season, champion premier point minimums for grand championship and grand premiership be reduced to 75 and 25 points respectively in ID other areas. Qualifying rings to also be reduced to 3. The rationale is an expected reduction in shows available and restrictions on judges' travel will have an adverse impact on exhibitor participation, which may negatively affect growth in these areas.
Kenny, is that your motion?
Yes, sir.
Melanie will second.
Oh, 1 second.
Who was that Carol?
Yes, Carol second.
Thank you, Carol. Okay, this is open for debate. Pam Delabar?
I, of course, am going to support this since I originally brought it up. We did talk about guest judges. Would you like, after we vote on this, would you like to enter into that without using names, but just associations?
Comments? Rich? You're muted.
Is it okay if we do that as a separate motion, Pam?
I don't even, this is more of an information thing, and I would think it would be something that we could hopefully do offline, but I did not pre-notice this, but this was brought over from our other discussion on using guest judges for, specifically, we were talking about homecoming at the time.
So for me, I'd be willing to know more about it, but outside of this specific motion works for me. Okay. Question, can I just get clarification on the effective date? I didn't quite hear it.
Kenny's motion said for the 2021-2022 show season.
Okay. Thank you.
Kenny Curley, you're recognized.
Yeah, I just, I agree with what Pam has intentions of doing after this motion hopefully is passed. And I just hope everybody supports this. This is a big need, as you know, during our discussion yesterday.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments? Okay, you take your, well, okay. I'm going to call the question. All those in favor, raise your hand, please. Yes votes are Kenny Curley, George Eigenhauser, Pam Mosier, Annette Wilson, Pam Delabar, John Kalila, Carol Krasnowski, Kathy Dunham, Kathy Calhoun, Sharon Roy, Melanie Morgan, Hayata San, Mark Hannon, Rich Maston, Rachel Anger, Steve McCullough. Howard, how are you voting?
Yes.
Thank you. You'll take your hands down. Any?
Everyone.
Okay, that was unanimous, so I'm not going to call the noes and the abstentions. So the motion is agreed to. Okay, so Pam, did you want to make another motion?
Okay, I am unmuted. I would like to move to extend the ability for clubs in the ID other to utilize guest judges at the same rate that we have allowed for actually Region 9 and other regions, and that is 50% guest judges. Now, I need to make you aware of what this could mean as far as availability as of today. For FIFA, China has 0 judges. but they have 3 Indonesian judges who can do Persians and exotics. WCF surprisingly has no judges in the area. TICA has 2 judges in South Korea and 1 trainee in Taiwan. And I know at one point in time, we were looking at a possible memorandum of accord or agreement with UCA, which has 7 all-breed judges in China, 3 in Thailand, and 1 in Singapore. That is what I was able to search out since last night.
Thank you, Pam. Rachel Anger, you're recognized.
I would like to include Vicky Nye in this discussion as our guest judge administrator. I see she's a panelist. If we can get her admitted, that'd be great. And for purposes of seconding the motion, I'll second that motion.
Okay.
Vicky Nye should be in.
Vicky, are you in?
I'm promoting her. I don't know. There, now she's in.
Vicky? Is she muted?
Yeah, Vicky, you're muted.
You're muted, Vicky.
Hi, sorry about that. I'm
There
in.
you go. Hi, how are you?
I'm fine, thanks. Yes, I was listening to Pam's request. First of all, I don't know if any of these judges that Pam is talking about are within part of the approved associations. The Indonesian judges, I don't know which association they are with, and the trainee that's in Taiwan, this wouldn't apply to because you have to be either approved or approval pending to guest judge.
Rich, you're recognized.
Yeah, can we find out if Gavin, Matthew, Ava, and the ID reps support Pam's recommendation?
Okay, let's start with Gavin.
I'm sorry, what's the recommendation? Because I heard about the judges being listed, but I'm not sure what's the recommendation.
Pam, would you restate it?
To allow clubs in ID other, which would be Matt, I think his comments, to have 50% guest judges at their shows. Now, what I read off was the status as it is right now. As areas open up, clubs could possibly be able to draw in from open areas. All I could give right now is what is available now in those areas. So Vicky, the ones in Indonesia were FIFA.
Okay,
That's an
thank you.
association. There are no WCF judges. There were 2 TICA judges in South Korea. And then we have the possibility of 11 judges with UCA, which I said this is something for the board to look at as a possible memorandum of agreement, our system of reciprocity. I know that came up before I came back on the board.
The UCA's China judges, is that correct, Pam?
No, it's 7 China, 3 Thailand, 1 Singapore.
Eva, any comments?
Eva doesn't have any comments. Well, for me, I have one comment is Yeah, UCA is a Chinese-based association. I know we had a discussion about them before and it was being tabled. If I think if you want to talk about UCA, we need to discuss in closed session. And also, like Pam mentioned, this is if it's for ID other, then this falls under the purview of Matt Wong. So.
Okay, Matt Wong, we'll have your input, please.
Hi, sure. I heard that I'm not aware of any of these associate of judges in Hong Kong, but I think yes, definitely giving more choices will help. So I'm supportive.
Okay, Rachel Inger, you're recognized.
Can we get a time period on the motion?
It'd be effective immediately for the remainder of the show season as it is for the rest of CFA. I mean, we still have that open for Region 9.
Melanie, you're recognized.
Thank you, Daryl. I'm uncomfortable voting on this without having some time to actually look at some more specifics and seeing feedback from the people in the ID other in terms of them identifying a real need for it. And without having, just looking at these things on the fly, I appreciate Pam pulling together a general summary, but I would like a chance for the judging program to get to actually fully research this and get back to us with a well thought out recommendation.
The next meeting even.
Okay, Melanie, are you suggesting that we get input from them and then bring this back in August?
That would be my preference, yes. But I'm willing to vote today in the negative or wait and see what happens in August.
Okay, would you like to make a motion to table this till the August meeting?
Sure.
And it should be discussed as a closed session agenda item.
Exactly. So moved.
Okay, I need a second on the table.
Rachel seconds.
Okay, so
I have a comment, Daryl.
Go ahead, Pam.
The guest judges can also, as I said, could also include those that are already on Vicky's approved list that the clubs don't even have to get permission from.
All right, so the motion is to table to the August meeting so we can get input. So I'm going to call the motion to table. All those in favor of tabling this to an executive session item at the August meeting, raise your hands, please. So the yes votes are Pam Mosier, Melanie Morgan, Sharon Roy, Steve McCullough, Annette Wilson, John Kalila, Carl Krasnowski, Kathy Calhoun, Rachel Inger, Rich Maston, Kenny Curley. Howard Webster, how are you voting?
Yes.
Thank you. All right, if you'll take your hands down. And the no votes, please raise your hand. Okay, so the no votes are Sharon Roy, Kathy Calhoun, Ayata San, Pam Delbar, Kathy Dunham, Mark Hannon, George Eigenhauser.
Daryl?
Yes.
This is Kathy Calhoun. I didn't get my hand down fast enough. I was a yes.
Okay, thank you, Kathy.
Carol, this is Sharon. I was a yes also. I just didn't get my hand down quickly enough.
Okay, thank you.
We ready?
We're ready for the vote.
The voting results were 13 yes, 4 no, 0 abstentions.
And is that, well, that's a table, so we don't need 2/3 of that, so. Okay, so the motion is agreed to table this until the August meeting. So Pam, if you'll get together with Vicky and I and work on this, okay?
You don't want Kenny involved either?
Well, anybody you want.
ID other.
Got it?
Thank you, Vicky Nye, for coming on.
Yep, thank you, Vicky.
Your surprise appearance.
Thank you.
Okay. So next on the agenda is the board meeting schedule for this coming year. So this is I sent this out as a pre-notice to you guys earlier, and Rachel has cleaned it up, and we've added a few asterisks to delineate this a little more clearly. And we're going to try to go back to the 6 meetings per year, every other month, 3 by video conference, and if possible, 3 in person. But we are going to put on the schedule on an emergency basis only the monthly meetings that would not be happening on columns 1 and 2. George, you're recognized.
I move we adopt the schedule as proposed.
Thank you. Mark Hannon.
I was told that we were only going to be meeting in person in February, and this indicates we're also going to meet in person in October.
If at the bottom it says in person if possible.
Okay.
But you're correct. We canceled the October meeting. And we tentatively canceled February, but I think that can be reinstituted quickly. Rich? Is it
The in-person portion.
Yeah, the in-person. Rich, can you comment on that? I think you were involved in that.
Yeah, so originally, when we did the budget review and approval, the board agreed to not hold the in-person February meeting until we got, I believe, 6 months through the financials to determine if we were operating in the red or the black. And at that point in time, we could make the decision if we wanted to go forward with an in-person February meeting. And the reason we did that was to bring our projected loss closer to break even. And we also asked a few other committees to cut back on their request and come back to us at a later date requesting for funds after they had used what was approved.
Okay, thank you. Before we have any more discussion, I need someone to second George's motion, the acceptance of this.
Rachel,
second.
Okay, Rich and Rachel, so you can put yourselves, both of yourselves down. You have any further comments, Rich?
Maybe Kathy has a little bit more information on that I missed.
Okay, thank you. Kathy Calhoun, you're recognized.
Thank you. Yes, I agree with Rich. And basically, from a financial position, we are going to do a reset and evaluation once we're 6 months in. So the October meeting was not built into the budget, and the February meeting, nor was it, but it's optional.
Okay, thank you, Kathy. Mark Hannon, you're recognized. Mark, your microphone's muted.
Okay, I'm not muted.
There you go.
Then I think this should be changed so that October has the X's under video conference. Because this says here's an in-person meeting in October, but we verbalized that we're not going to have an in-person. We're going to discuss in-person meetings in October.
I'll second Mark's amendment.
Okay, so we want to cancel and move it over to a video conference. Is that your motion, Mark?
Yes.
Okay, and George, you agree with that?
Yes.
Okay, so we will move it over a column. Okay,
I was gonna raise my hand.
Rachel, go ahead.
I think the column indications are for what format the meeting is. I'd rather leave it in the columns it is and change the heading if you like. We tried to make it as clear as it could be. So the 3 quarterly meetings that are traditionally in person would appear in their own column. And then the mid-quarterly meetings in another column. And the delineation is whether it was possible to have it in person or not. You know what, for clarity, I think the way it is fine, but if other people think it would be clearer another way, we'll change it how you like.
Mark, would you agree to putting like 3 asterisks for October 21, but behind the 3 X's, and note at the bottom, normally this is an in-person meeting, but it has been canceled and will be held by video conference?
Yes, I agree.
Okay, George?
That works for me too.
Okay, it just makes it simple. We don't have to change much. Okay, Kathy Calhoun, you're recognized.
Yeah, I agree with that. I was going to suggest just instead of putting the X's for October 2021, you put virtual. For February, you put virtual. For June, you put in person. You just state what it is instead of the X's.
I think it'll be understood by putting the 3 asterisks in, if you're okay with that. See, Pam Delabar.
I know Kathy Calhoun loves saving money. I do want to remind the board that our effectiveness as a board would enhance greatly with in-person meetings. As I said before, I knew that I was getting into late night meetings when I declared to be regional director of Europe. I'm sure Hayata-san may have had an inkling that she was going to be spending some god-awful hours as well. But the effectiveness of the board, being able to eyeball each other, being able to get other cues cannot be replaced by a Zoom meeting. I hope that once everybody's got their vaccinations, once we've got COVID under somewhat control, that we can get together again as a board to be able to function at a maximum level.
Thank you, Pam. Any other comments? Okay, so our motion has been amended, so let's vote on the amendment. Anyone opposed to amending the October, putting 3 asterisks and down at the bottom noting that it will be not be held in person, but by virtual meeting? See no objection, by unanimous consent, the amendment is agreed to. So now let's vote on, is there any discussion now on the amended schedule? Any objection to the amended schedules? Hearing no objection, by unanimous consent, the motion is agreed to. Okay, is there anything else that we need to cover in open session?
I don't have anything else.
Okay, our secretary has nothing else, so I'll adjourn the meeting, and it is 10:30, so let's take a 15-minute break, and then we'll come back into closed session. Thank you, everybody. I appreciate it.